really nice to be here. This is such a beautiful room. So, before I start to talk about myself, I'm going to ask, this year is the 20th anniversary of two very important events, at least significant to what I'm going to be talking about today. So any guesses as to what they might be? Sorry. 20th anniversary.
I'm thinking something technology in terms of the web or something.
No. 97. Who's in talent management? Anybody in talent management? No? You heard of the war for talent? Mm-hmm. That article celebrates its 20th anniversary this year. I think it's in the middle, in June or something. Yeah, it was written by somebody, it was coined by a person named Stephen Hankin from McKinsey. Do you remember that? Yeah. That's 20 years old. And I sometimes wonder, how much have we come since then? Are we still doing things that was written in that article? To your point of what is new. The second thing, 20th anniversary. Deep Blue beat Kasparov. That was a big event. I'll come back to that. That's a big event. Okay, so my name's Mandy, and up until last month, I was the head of talent and also the head of strategy and innovation for ING. I have decided to leave corporate life and set up my own consulting practice. So I had visions of having lots of free time after quitting my job, but actually that hasn't come true. So I'm either doing something very right or something very wrong. I'm not sure which, but I've been enjoying myself. My career has been mostly, so by training I'm a psychologist, industrial and organizational psychologist. I started my career in Motorola, and then I went into consulting, and then to Honeywell, and then to Johnson, and then to ING. And throughout, and it's a 20-year, I'm celebrating my 20 years too. Started in 1997. And in those 20 years, it has brought me to 7 countries, and including Asia Pacific. So I've lived in Malaysia and Singapore and China and Thailand, and the US and Canada, and now here. So wonderful to be here. So what I'm going to do, this is my clicker, and it works. Can you see this? I hope so.
We're just going to try and sort the slides out now. So.
Ah, okay. So this is what's on the agenda today, and I'm going to actually spend time on what is changing in the world and what impact that has on the workplace, and then what does it mean that HR needs to do differently. And then if we have time, we can talk about the ING story. Now, I don't want people to be disappointed if you came to hear the ING story. So can I have a show of hands? Is that okay with you if we go with that flow? Excellent. Okay, great. So, so it's too bad that you can't really see this very much. So the world is changing, and it's changing really, really fast. I think what you will hear, and I'm sure you've heard people speak about this often, is another industrial revolution is coming. And we've basically, you know, the smart people are saying we've lived through 3 industrial revolutions, and now we're heading for a 4th one. And this 4th one, even though it has similarities to the 3rd one because it is about technology and cyber and AI and all of these things, it is distinct and not just an extension of the last one. People are calling this the intelligence revolution. And the point being, the breakthroughs that you're seeing in this particular revolution is exponentially faster than what you were seeing 20 years ago. The scope is vastly larger. It will impact every country and every industry. And it is a systemic impact. It will hit, like it will transform the entire systems of government, of management, and of production. So this really is something that we need to pay attention to. It's not just something that is, you know, part of what was happening before. This is what you will see often when you read about AI and the next revolution. The expectation is that this intelligence revolution will substantially increase global productivity and increase quality of life as well. And you might be asking, well, you know, how is that going to happen? Accenture has done some really interesting studies with looking at global economic growth. Now, this chart, you can't really see it. Just follow the sort of the bright blue lines. What this is showing us is overall, from the 80s till today, growth has sort of flatlined. It hasn't, you know, you would have expected with all our brilliant inventions, it would have gone up, but it actually hasn't. So you could argue that there was a bit of a blip during the third industrial revolution where the computer technology has created some growth, particularly in emerging economies. But other than that, it's been quite flat. So what's going on there? This is an article that was published by Accenture. And if you want to read more about what I'm talking about today and what are some of the impact that AI could have, I really recommend looking this up. And what they're saying is it's all about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is actually going to have a very, very big impact on global productivity and quality of life. So just very quickly, I don't know how familiar people are when you hear the word AI. What is AI? Artificial intelligence, you can sort of think of it as 3 categories. The first category is when a machine mimics human sense. So meaning it can see things, computer vision, or it can hear things, audio processing. And to a certain extent, we even have tactile sensing. It can touch things and it knows what it's touching. So that's that kind of intelligence. The second category is when a machine can make sense of something. It can process language. So with the chat bots and conversational bots, you can actually have conversations with a machine that sounds relatively normal. And it understands what you're saying, particularly with sentiment analysis and all of that. Knowledge representation means it can read something and it makes sense of it. So it knows what it's reading. The third is act. Act literally means this is where people get really worried about, oh, machines are going to have learning and they're going to learn how to make decisions and they're going to take action. And that's really the category where a lot of the concern is. So on the right-hand side, you see some examples of some of the AI solutions that are already being used today. This is not future stuff. This has been around for years. So a virtual assistant will use combinations of all of these things, including language. Data visualization, those of us in analytics will know that you let the machine loose on a pile of data and it will visualize it for you in a way that makes sense. So this is some of the ways in which we can expect to see artificial intelligence. Now, you might think, well, what impact does this have what if AI takes jobs away from people? Now, this is an interesting quote from a professor of economics, not technology, but economics in MIT, basically saying, often we think of AI as boosting growth by substituting humans because they're more efficient. So they do more than humans. But actually, the value that's going to come is going to come from new goods and services and innovation that AI will enable. So this article that I mentioned, they did a lot of work by surveying the top 12 largest economies in the world. And basically their conclusion is by 2035, we should see a doubling of economic growth and labor productivity is going to go up by at least 40%. So that's pretty encouraging. This is an example of what is in their study, and this is just, you don't have to look at all the numbers, but basically notice that the blue line is about twice as long as the yellow line for every country, right? So that's essentially what they're saying. AI has the potential to double annual growth rates in 12 of the largest economies in the world. So this is assuming that the countries will have AI steady state optimized. And what that means is they will have governance and technology and society and education and all the different systemic ways to optimize the use of AI. So meaning leverage it as much as possible. So if they do, they should expect to see a twofold increase. So hence, what does this mean to us in the workplace? I'm going to switch gears a little bit to look at some research that was done by MIT Sloan.
Mandy, just quickly, we can drop the curtains quickly, that'd be better.
Yeah, I think so. I think people are having trouble seeing this, right?
Yeah, I think it just takes a second.
Let's do that, no problem.
Sorry for the view, but
Yeah,
Might be a little bit cool though.
we're not getting the view. Do you want, you can lower it more if you want. Yeah, I think people are in the sun. They might be getting hot too, right?
that's okay.
All right, good. Perfect. Does that help?
Yeah, that's
Okay, good. All right. So this study, this is from, let me see, yeah, it's a 2015 MIT study of several thousand global business leaders. So this chart shows you that companies are very aware of the disruption that's coming from digitalization, but they're not prepared. 87% believe that they will be disrupted, but only half of that, more or less, feel that they are adequately preparing for it. So, oops. We're not moving.
Like it. Quite good.
Thank you. Okay, so there you go. 87 believe to be disrupted and only 44% believe that they're adequately preparing for it. And similarly, workplaces. This is important, I think, for us in the human capital industry. 93% of companies feel that their workforce is not prepared for the AI technologies. So workers are not prepared. 95% of workers feel that they need new skills to stay current. But only 21% of the surveyed workers feel that the employer is effectively developing them for the future. That is a really, really huge gap. And that is a statistic that you will see. This is a very robust, very consistent statistic. It actually doesn't matter which source you go to. You will see this split. You can go look at Gallup, you can look at MIT, you can look at Accenture, McKinsey, PwC, Bain, BCG. It's roughly, this is what you will see. So this is a real problem, I think. And then my favorite slide. So I think that digitalization threats are a call to arms for HR. So in the same study, they asked people, what is the biggest threat facing your company as a result of digital trends? The number one response was lack of agile culture. So culture was the number one threat that they saw. Then you see some usual suspects: competition, disruption, security, and then recruiting. So they're worried about getting the right people. And then lack of resources. You could think of types of resources, but you could also think of talent and people as resources, and how you design jobs as to how your resources are deployed. So I believe that if you add up the green bars, you get up to 30%. So a full 30% of the biggest threats that leaders say are facing them is in your wheelhouse. HR has key strength to address at least 30% of what's the problem right now with this digital transformation. I know this is a bit of a cliched image, but it's a woman's hand. Have you seen it? It's a woman's hand. It's normally a man. So it's a bit of my soapbox. Right. I was very excited to find an image with a woman's hand. Notice the robot is also feminine. I love this. So anyway, by the end of this decade, we will expect, you should expect to see AI in every single part of the business. And it's not just going to disrupt blue collar or service or automated jobs. It's not just about automation anymore. It will affect all levels of management from the C-suite down. And this is going to pose some very serious challenges to business leaders and HR leaders. Some of the things that came out of this Accenture study are, they expect that AI will put an end to administrative work. So in this particular study, they looked at 1,700 global leaders. And this is what they saw. This is one of the, I'm just showing you a snippet of some of the data. Managers are asked, what do you spend time on? And you can see that they spend more than 50% of their time on coordinate and control tasks. And the least amount of time they spend are on people and community. Right. So what this is telling us is the type of work that our management population is spending more than half their time doing is exactly the type of work that will be taken over by intelligent systems very, very soon. The other thing this is saying is we are unaware or underestimating the importance of social intelligence and interpersonal skills in running a business and building a community, because that is something that you will always be better than a machine. So at some point, you're going to go into a conversation of, are the robots going to come and take my job? The answer is yes, but there are things that you can do better than the robots, and that's one of them. However, you're not doing a lot of it at the moment. So. The other thing they found is there's a difference in levels and in age groups. The C-suite people are actually quite receptive to the promise of AI, what it can bring to their businesses. But lower down in the ranks, they're not so. They're a bit skeptical. The younger leaders are very supportive and think it's very promising, but the older leaders are, again, very skeptical. So just quickly, you can see, the purple line represents the C-suite, the top management, and then middle management, and then first line managers. And you can see it's a pretty consistent difference in how much they're willing to be optimistic about this change. Everything from, I would trust the advice of a machine, I will accept responsibility for what a machine does, and I'm okay if a machine evaluates my performance. So again, these are things for people in the HR world to start paying attention to. And finally, judgment work. We really think to thrive in the coming years, be good at judgment work, because this is not something machines are very good at. What does judgment work look like? Judgment work is a combo of social and creative. So if you were to look at the chart, you'll see that it's about seeing the big picture, thinking creatively, and connecting seemingly unconnected things. The four, do you remember, can I move back? Okay, do you remember this? These four types of work have been plotted on that chart. So you see coordinate and control work, the machine has the advantage. And that's where majority of that type of work are going to go. So like scheduling, checking up on deadlines, project management, that's going to be automated. Then you see solving, shape strategies, solve problems, develop people and community. Of course, developing people and community is where humans have the most advantage. We should be shining there. This is what we do the best. Interestingly, strategy and innovation is actually a little lower on that bar than solving problems. So that's just a thought, because strategy can be done without a lot of social and interpersonal skills if you had to, if you think about it. So anyway, the point here is this is the type of capability that we should be building in our leaders, and less so of the type of work that can be done by machines. Additionally, as HR, this chart should tell you, how should I design work? How should I design my organizations? Is it always one person, one job now, or can we cut up jobs differently so that particular skills are going to go to machines and particular skills are going to go to people? Which brings me to my next slide. Okay. Centaurs. Isn't that pretty? You're thinking, she's lost her mind. A female centaur. Yes. Yes. So, what is a centaur? I'm going to come back to Kasparov and Deep Blue. Remember that story? So, in 1997, in May of 1997, so to this month, Deep Blue beat Kasparov in the world's first machine winning over a chess master event. Of course, Kasparov was not very happy. He then did a lot of research to try to figure out, how is this possible? How could I have lost to this IBM thing? And long story short, what he figured out was, actually, anybody plays, any chess lovers here? Do you know what freestyle chess is? Okay, so he created something called freestyle chess, which basically means a person, a chess player, a really good chess player, is going to partner with a machine like IBM Deep Blue. And together, they're going to compete against another person or a machine-person combination. That he calls freestyle chess. And that today has been called, has taken the name centaur. Centaurs are basically AI-human hybrids. Whenever a human is effectively augmented by really good AI, that's a centaur. So essentially what he found, and this has been proven over and over again in almost every single setting that has been tested, an average, a pretty decent chess player and a pretty decent computer, but with a spectacularly good interface between them so that they leverage each other's strengths maximally, will always beat a great human or a great computer every single time. Every time. So you don't need a superhuman and you don't need a supercomputer, you need a super interface. That is promising, I think, because what does that mean to be a centaur in the workplace? To be a centaur in the workplace means taking advantage of vast analytical powers of machine learning and all those AI intelligence behind you, and adding the human thinking and intuition. Some of the examples, it really blows your mind. Some of the examples are Deep Dream uses, it actually creates art. It creates art, but it cannot create art out of nothing. A human needs to plant the seed and suggest what type of art it should do, and then the art is produced. It's gorgeous. You can look it up. Another one is cybersecurity. Computers can track and monitor for violations, for peaks and valleys. It can track all of that. But what it cannot do is to track the creativity of the criminal mind. So it needs a human to tell the computer how to connect seemingly disconnected things, and then the computer goes at it. Another example is Hollywood. I think by now we know what a good shot looks like and what a bad shot looks like. If you're a movie director, you know what a well-framed shot looks like and what a bad shot looks like. All those parameters are known. You feed that into a computer, it can direct. So essentially what it does is it will free up the Martin Scorseses and the Steven Spielbergs of the world to not worry about the technicalities of production, but instead quickly do a storyline on VR and throw it over to the computer and focus, when you're with your actors, focus on the humans, focus on the storyline, focus on getting the best out of people. It completely changes the game and brings us back to human advantage. So, yes, we should all be centaurs. So, the final word here is, it's too bad that whenever we talk about artificial intelligence, often it goes into a philosophical discussion about consciousness. Do machines think? Can they make right decisions? Are they going to be moral? Those are good questions. There are very smart people very worried about it. Elon Musk is one of them. So this is real. So there are people worried about that. But I'm saying there's another side of AI which is actually very beneficial to people and the workplace. So we just have to remember that machines are terrible risk takers and they don't make great leaps of faith. Those are prerogative of humans. So rather than worrying about whether machines are going to take your jobs, let's just think about how we can build more settings where we can have centaurs produce great work in the workplace. So I'm going to take a breath here before we move on to, so what does this mean to HR? What should HR do differently? Should I just carry on, or questions, or no? Okay, so I'll just carry on. Good. So what I'm going to share with you is a part of it is what I've learned throughout the years of working with different industries and different companies. And I'm also going to interweave some of the ING examples into this because I think ING has been on a really amazing transformation journey for the last 4 years. I'm very, very proud of where we have come. And yes, I will still say we for at least 6 or 12 months more. I'm sure of it. I have deep love for this company, and I'm very proud of what I was able to do to play my part in helping with this transformation on the people side. So, so the first thing, I'm going to recommend a couple of things that I think is important for HR to do when your organizations declare it wants to transform. All right, so the perspective I'm taking is you're leading HR, your company has declared it wants to transform. What are my suggestions? First, I highly suggest having a serious conversation with your board or your top leaders about the purpose of your organization. Purpose beyond profit. Because purpose drives performance, and people want to buy from and work for companies that have a real reason for being. Companies that have a clear purpose outperform in the last 20 years. Purpose-led companies have outperformed the S&P 500 by 10x, 10 times. Employees report being 170% more satisfied and 140% more engaged. Purpose is real. So my suggestion is have a conversation about the company, whether it has a purpose, because when you start to talk about digital transformation, we want to be innovative, we want to be agile, a lot of things are going to be thrown at people. People need something to anchor onto. So this is my suggestion. Purpose is not CSR. It is not corporate social responsibility. It is not a mission statement, despite what consultants might tell you. It is not sustainability. It is a growth driver, and most importantly, it is why people care about your success. And people meaning your employees and your customers and your investors. They care about your success. Those of you who know companies like Patagonia, we all want them to succeed just because they're cool. Some people have that same kind of feeling for Tesla because they believe Tesla is going to save the world. So we want Tesla to succeed. So it's that type of an aura. It's a reason for being beyond profit, beyond getting bigger, beyond beating your competition. Those are not purposes for being. So I really recommend having a serious conversation about that. This is ING's purpose. We worked long and hard with the board. Yes, there were some consultants involved, but it was really the board and us who came up with this. So ING's purpose is to empower people to stay a step ahead in life and business. And this is the driving force. We can literally look at every single process we have in the company and say, does this empower people to stay a step ahead? If it doesn't, we may not need to do it. So a quick view of how we did this and how this is, ING followed a similar process. But this is sort of a textbook process. So you start with discovering your why. I highly recommend it to be co-created. That means don't lock yourself in a room with a consultant and then unveil your purpose to the rest of the company. Not good. Engage them and co-create it at least with your top half of your leaders. And let them put a bit of their own life purpose into it. It is doable. And then you can go through the process of activating it with values and behaviors, making sure it goes into your strategy and your innovation agenda. Authentic leader, really, really important. That is the anchor of how ING develops leaders. We're building authentic leaders, and the most important capabilities there are being self-aware and knowing your purpose. So it really does pay dividends. And the other thing I would suggest is, as HR, eat your own dog food. What do I mean by this? This means when your company makes the declaration that it wants to transform and become agile and innovative and all this stuff, what does HR typically do? HR is the support function. HR would be very helpful. HR would say, what can I do to help you? Do you want some training programs? Do you want some OD work? Can we lead your change management for you? But you are coming at it like, I'm going to be very black and white here, and you guys are probably going to be very offended. But imagine the Tour de France. Sometimes HR is like the people handing out the water bottles. I'm saying get on a bike, form a team, and race. Get in there. Because when the whole company is going through a transformation, you need to also show up exactly like that. Don't say, oh yeah, you know, IT's doing it and supply chain's doing it and, you know, marketing's definitely doing it. They're creative. No, you form your own team. You get up there and you declare, we are on an innovation journey as well. These are the things we're going to try. All the tools and all the new mindsets that you guys are trying on, we're trying it on too. So declare your journey and get on it, because it is important for HR to start looking at their own processes differently. As an example, this is an ING example. The business, especially, it started with the Dutch operation. The whole Dutch bank decided to go agile. And this has, I'm sure many of you have seen this. It's on YouTube, it's on the McKinsey articles, it's written about everywhere. And this is a successful experiment. It's done really, really well. What HR does is say, okay, go and experiment. We're very happy, but we are also experimenting on our own. So we actually have selected a few specific initiatives, And those teams are forming squads, or they have formed squads, and those teams are actually solving problems and creating solutions in an agile way. So it's not just the businesses that are doing it. HR is actually doing its own work in this particular way. So it's an example. The next recommendation is about the customer experience journey. So for those of you who have, how many of you are in the middle of some kind of, your company is in the middle of some kind of innovation drive? Yeah, so you're very familiar with this phrase, customer experience journey. So what I'm recommending here is, as HR, you need to look at what your customer experience journey looks like. Who's your customer? And essentially, it's basically a continuation on from the last recommendation I had. Eat your own dog food. Use the tools. Use the customer experience journey tool to map your customer's experience. Who are your customers? Your employees are your customers. What does customer loyalty look like? It looks like great performance, great commitment, great engagement. So I'm just suggesting that this is how you show up. When you declare you're going to participate in innovation, take one of the most high impact tools, like the customer experience journey, and design one of your key processes from the outside in, from the user's perspective. I mean, in many companies, I don't think it's anyone's job to offer superb employee experience. It actually isn't anyone's job. It's something that just happens. So I would suggest it is your job. It is HR's job, so take it on. So I'll show you a couple of examples that I'm quite proud of. So this is ING's EVP. When we revamped our EVP, we did it from the user's perspective. We really went out and talked to employees and talked to HR in every country. We want to be the unbanky bank. We're very fresh. We're very easy to deal with. We're very transparent. So this is one of the images we like to use for that. This is another image that we like to use. We sometimes use this in EVP. Sometimes we use this when we talk about our new performance management. When we redesign performance management, one of the new components in there is stretch ambition. So we can sometimes use this to talk about, yeah, try. Look at things from a different point of view. You never know. Try it out and see. So the third thing is to be the Sherpa of digitalization. I like the word Sherpa because it has enough, it's humble enough, but it's also a very powerful and important position of leadership. And I think that's classically what HR's value needs to be for people. So what do I mean by this? I literally mean everything that we've talked about earlier. The world is changing. The trends are real. Now, we in HR have a choice. We can be the support organization and let the business leaders, and even worse, let IT make these very important decisions. Because these decisions are not about robots and technology. These decisions have serious human and societal implications. And I believe HR needs to be the trusted voice, the credible voice, that's going to be the voice of wisdom to guide this. Because you need to be in every discussion. It's not just about, can we have this app? I don't know, ask IT. It's not that simple. You need to think about unintended consequences, because what you measure, you will get. And sometimes it's not a good thing. So my recommendation is definitely get credible and get the trust. So here are just some things, you can take it or leave it, but here's some thoughts of mine that, you know, how would you do that? How would you get credible? How would you get started? I would say start now and get professional help. You don't have to do this by yourself. There are lots of consultants and partners out there who have done this before, who are more than happy to share and help. Get educated, and as soon as you're educated, educate the organization. So the kind of thing that I just talked about, people need to hear that. So try to organize that type of education to be brought into the house. And start experimenting. Show, this is part of, I'm on the innovation journey too, so we are also doing something cool. Start with, I would recommend start with one of each. Start with analytics, do one tech, and do one new way of working. Run 3 experiments, see what happens. And be willing to disrupt yourself, because if you're still hanging on to, yeah, we run experiments, but we still do things the same way, it probably won't go over very well. Engage leaders to be hands-on. All the experiments that you're running, invite them. Have them participate, because that's the only way they're going to understand that this is not just about a millennial way of working or technology. It's about them. It's about their way of leadership. What else? Redesign the organization. As I said, use the customer journey, and don't just rely on the usual suspects. Try to invite people you wouldn't normally invite into a design process, and see what that looks like. And have fun. This is fun stuff. I mean, I don't know. I actually believe this is the funnest time to be in HR. I don't know. I think it is. Okay. The 4th recommendation is to keep it simple, because there's going to be so many things going on in the company and in HR. As much as possible, keep the complexity down, commit to a few things, and get it done. And don't try to get anything to perfection, because it won't be. So it's a matter of experimentation. Always know how you'll measure impact. This piece is about, I believe, part of your story of how you're committing to your own innovation journey as HR is to show how you do experiments. So whenever you're testing something, be quite open and public about declaring, this is what we're testing, this is the hypothesis, this is our criteria of success. If we get this, we go. If we don't, we scrap it. And this is how we're going to measure the success and the impact to the business. And tell your story. Organize events, or have, find ways to share your story of how your experiment has worked, or if it hasn't worked, what did you learn? Because a failed experiment is actually far more valuable in learning what to do and what not to do than a successful experiment. So always know how you'll measure it. And with so many things going on, somebody needs to be listening to how people are feeling. So quick pulse checks, not the once a year giant engagement survey. That's probably not a very agile way to go. So try to find light, low investment ways to do quick pulse checks, just so that you know how people are feeling with all the initiatives that are happening. Digital listening is an interesting thing. Digital listening, I don't know if you have seen this particular example, but for those of you who have companies, who are lucky enough to be in companies where you have a strong internal social network, and you have a lot of digital processes to measure how people are connecting and communicating with each other, so basically a collaborative platform, you should have a lot of data available. This is a bit of a gold standard because it's an IBM example. But what you can see on the left-hand side is they now know that, look at the lines. The minute they see a drop in how people engage in their social media internally, they know the person is about 180 days before they give notice. How's that for reading? And on this side, you have the Uber story. Have you heard the IBM Uber story? So about, I think last year, it came down from above that nobody's allowed to use Uber anymore because it was against their policy. They've rolled out this policy that says you cannot use Uber. Within a few hours, so their people who monitor these things picked up the chatter that people were really angry. They were very unhappy. Within a few more hours, they were able to talk to some people, get some queries, questions, phone calls, conversations going. Within 18 hours, the CEO sent out a message reversing the policy. We heard you. We know you hate this. So we are now pulling back this policy. You are now allowed to use Uber again. 18 hours. How wonderful is that if we are able to that quickly find out what people are feeling and thinking? And finally, get great people. HR needs great people. It's a really exciting time, but the bar is very high. Credible, trusted, and able to think outside the box. It takes a bit of courage, so get great people. So that's basically all I have. Questions? Thank you.
What will be the effect on the size of companies in regard to the amount of people working if you give them the development of artificial intelligence and you need more computers taking over and less people in a company?
I have an opinion on that, but I think that the data is suggesting that size of companies will reduce because you can packetize skills, so you don't have to think about one human being, one job, permanent. You can have many different combinations of that. So companies are freer to pull apart roles and skills and outsource some and assign some to partners. And if you combine that scenario with the scenario that more and more millennials and even non-millennials are happier to work in a gig economy, me being one of them, people are less, you would expect that companies should rely more on people that you don't own as employees officially. So from that perspective, I think the number of employees will go down.
Or work in a different way?
Yeah, they will definitely work a different way because, up to 3/4 of all jobs will be significantly impacted by AI in the next 10 years.
But do you not feel that's happening already?
Yeah.
And I work in a tech industry, so maybe that's
Yeah,
a little
you'll see it more.
advanced adoption, but I feel like that's happening already.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment it is, but you might think that giving you technology is also creating new companies. And what do these companies look like? That's what my question was coming from.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. There is consolidation, so some industries are consolidating and getting larger and larger. But there are also more and more smaller specialty companies. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's hard to say.
You said you were working, let's say, in this program within ING. What do you see, let's say, as an outcome of it? Do you see, let's say, some changes in how people work or how people think, or do you see, let's say, cultural change, or how do you see that?
Well, I actually think the culture of ING itself has changed over the past 4 years. We were very focused on how we implemented these people initiatives. So I think at the start of 2014, when the business strategy was launched, we launched the people strategy, the culture change strategy at the same time. So it was a very mindful and very carefully orchestrated series of events. Actually, I can show you a quick chart of that. Yeah. So here are the 5 things that we did. When we launched the strategy, we said, okay, we're going to change values and behaviors, and we're going to do it bottom up. So we're going to invite everybody to tell us, what behaviors do you want to see from your colleagues when you come to work every day? And we'll take 6 months to do it. It's great. And that's what it looks like. These are our 3 behaviors. It's very simple, but that's part of the ING image, the purpose. We're clear and easy. We're simple. There's nothing complicated about us. The second thing we also rolled out at the same time is to revamp performance management. We told people that it will take a couple of years to get it right, but we're starting right away. So it's a promise. And the third thing is to rethink leadership. There's a whole bunch of activity under here, but basically we started by benchmarking our leaders, assessing them, changing the way the top 100 operated, the structure of how they made decisions, and leadership development program. So we defined, basically rebranding leadership, and then we created a new leadership development program. We also communicated at the same time that we're going to hire a new chief innovation and chief transformation. This sends a very clear message that this is important. We're going to put resources on it. And these people are going to report to the CEO. So, it's a promise again. And then the 5th thing is simplifying org structures and looking deeply into how we make decisions. So this is across the board. This is what you can think of as the reinforcing mechanisms in the organization. If you say you want to be agile and you want to empower people to make decisions, but over here you still have all your decisions funneling all the way up to the top, and you need 9 signatures before anything is approved for budget-wise, then those 2 things don't match. So I'm not saying we have solved all of that, but this was the beginning of really serious work to take a look at how we can flatten that and simplify it.
So did these initiatives already improve your competitive position?
Yeah.
Because you can compare against ABN AMRO, and who did not go agile, but not completely.
I actually don't know. I will profess I did not compare our results with ABN AMRO. But I will say for the last 2 years or more, the results have been very, very, very encouraging. It's worth celebrating, I would say. Yeah, definitely business impact is good.
And then you see that then also with faster decisions,
Yes.
with faster customer solutions, that kind of things?
Yeah, definitely. We do measure. I know for certain that the way we treat customers have improved, and faster solutions to customers have improved, involving customers in creating solutions that have vastly improved. Internally, do we make decisions faster? I would say we have improved, but there's still some ways to go.
What else did you measure?
What else did we measure? Oh, we measured. Engagement is an ongoing thing. Yeah, we always measure engagement. We measure organization health using the McKinsey Organization Health Index. We also measure, as a result of the new leadership development capabilities and new leadership development program, we are now measuring what's the impact of that program on the way leaders are behaving towards their people. So we're pulsing very specifically what's the leadership effectiveness impact on their people all around them. So yeah, so a couple things.
If you had to redo the 4 years journey, you personally, what would you have done different?
Actually, some of the recommendations that I said were to do differently. I think I think the one thing I would say I wish we had been faster or more forward with is declaring that we are also innovating. While we committed to these 5 cultural change people initiatives, we were not specific about using innovative methodology on any one of them until much farther down the road. So I think if I were to do it differently, I would be more upfront in declaring that I would use design thinking, I would use some more innovative approach to designing some of these.
I've got one from the live stream actually,
Yes.
who's asked, well, said we've got more challenges than AI, fewer candidates, Gen Y, transformation. Do you consider AI to be the most important of these? And followed up with, difficult to hear that question.
Can you repeat?
So there's a gentleman called Christian who has written in and said we have more challenges than AI in his own thoughts.
Yep.
Fewer candidates, Gen Y, transformation being two examples. Do you consider AI as the most important of these?
Oh, no, definitely not. I think the demographics, the changing demographics is a very big challenge. I've never thought about which is a bigger challenge, but I think if I had to list what are the most important things to pay attention to, I would definitely say the demographics, technology, with AI being at the top, and changing values. People are changing, not just millennials, but everybody is changing. Everybody wants to be treated like a consumer. Everybody wants transparency. There's changing values in the world in general. And the democratization of privileged knowledge, democratization of decision-making power. I think those are the 3 things I would really pay attention to.
I'm quite curious about that IBM example, the Uber example.
Yeah.
Because I expected, with AI and kind of judgment, decision making, that you'd be using the data before you actually rolled something out like that, rather than wouldn't that be logical? Because those types of things impact culture, they impact your trust in the leadership and things like that. So what happened there?
I don't know. I have to say I have not dug in with them. I can contact my person at IBM and find out. But I completely agree with you. If you were to do this the right way,
AI, it's
you would go ask Watson what to do first. Watson, should I do this? And Watson would probably give you something like, well, given how many people rely on Uber to go to work every day, that might not be a very popular policy.
You're setting yourself up to be a good centaur.
I know she is.
Saying, I want the data in order to make the decisions, and I want to have that conversation with my leadership in a credible manner to help them.
Brilliant.
I work for the other tech company, and I can guess what happened. They don't have that tight to, they're not working with their HR as trusted advisors.
It could
They
be.
didn't get the data because they didn't ask for it.
It could be something that came from finance, or you never know. You never know.
Seen any new ways of people performance? Management, in the sort of in comparison to how it has been, or systems, or
Systems. Yes, I didn't talk about HR systems. I will make one blanket statement about HR systems. It is going to be disrupted big time, because what we've seen up till now is not anywhere near what we need to serve us with all the stuff that I just talked about. So the workdays of the world, much celebrated as they are of the past, because I'm sure many people here are familiar with Workday. If you've implemented Workday, what's the first question they force you to answer in Workday? Do you want a headcount-based model or a position-based model? Yeah, remember that conversation? I still have scars on my back from implementing 2 of these. Anyway, they are, this behemoth, one giant system of record is not the way we need to go. So sadly, the technology that HR needs is not quite there yet. So there's a lot of smaller players that are coming in with good apps that you can see. Most of the most promising apps are in the space of learning and engagement. These are the 2 spaces that you will find the best. Performance management is sadly lacking behind. There's hardly anything interesting there. So it's a long answer to say, I really, really hope that we will see something amazing in the next year because we need it. The technology for HR is pretty sorely lacking right now. The other thing I will say is, this is my prediction. I think that conversation is going to be the most important interface we have. So instead of typing, or as Elon Musk likes to call it, using meat sticks to interface with computers, meat sticks, we're going to talk to computers. So imagine if you can have conversations to do engagement surveys. And it asks you, how do you feel about that? Well, why do you say that? What would make it a 4? Why do you give it a 3? What would make it a 4? Those are the kinds of conversations that AI can already do today. So I'm very, very hopeful that we will see that very quickly. In performance management, I would expect to see a chatbot style natural language operator that is going to talk to me about, how do you feel about that? You just gave a talk to the HR directors. How do you feel about that? Do you think you did okay? What do you think you could have done better? So that type of conversation and actually having coaching ability built into a conversation bot is not far away. So I'm hoping that that's something we will see. Yeah.
How do you look at the use of IA in assessing talent?
Assessing. There are a couple of interesting ones that I've seen. In assessment, it's actually pretty easy. It's actually available today. So adaptive testing is actually a form of AI. So you're interacting with, depends on the test. You can interact with just verbal. You can interact with virtual reality. You can interact with a gaming situation. So I think the applications should be quite good already. What was the other thing I was going to say? Assessment. Oh, yeah, the other thing is on the other side of in talent management, those of you who have tried to do things like succession planning and trying to look for who are the high potentials and how do you identify high potential, all that kind of work, that can easily be programmed into an algorithm, and it can also be easily put into a chat bot. In fact, Gallup has built a bot. I don't know what they call it. I call it talent management bot. But essentially, they just plugged in their talent management system into Amazon Echo. You talk to Amazon Echo. And their vision is they're going to put Amazon Echo in front of every manager, and manager can ask talent management queries. Like, I'm trying to build a project team that needs to do supply chain capabilities. Who are my people? Who are the best people? And then you'll have a conversation with the bot about, well, where do you need it to be? Is it full-time? Do you need a large team? Do you need a global team? What are the major skills? Who are the customers? And then they will make some recommendations on who are the talents internally that you can tap. And if it's a good system, it should also have talents externally that you can tap. And if it's a really great system, you can say, yeah, I like Linda, and it will make an appointment with Linda for you.
But do you believe that that should be the future of HR systems, or should you maybe have the HR database and then use more general tools like Watson, as you mentioned, to make that kind of analysis?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about that specifically. I think I will go back to asking if we need an HR database or we just need a database. It's just data.
Yeah.
So I think if an organization is smart about collecting all types of data, network data, collaborative data, how people work, how people talk, how decisions are made, all of these things, that's very valuable data. And a quote from IBM, data is the new oil. It's all about data. I mean, AI is nothing without data. So I would say, yeah, I would say maybe you don't even need a specialized HR system. Maybe existing Watson algorithms from there can do the job. That's a good thought. I'll spend tonight thinking about that.
Where does that data gathering stop? Because you also have something like a digital footprint. All of us have a digital footprint if we're on social media and all that. So do you also see sort of it going that direction, that these footprints are also being included in the
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's hard to say, but I would say from a commercial perspective, every business who's trying to gain an advantage will try to use whatever they can get their hands on. So, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of, examples such as an insurance company who has reduced the time it takes to approve an application for insurance because it can tell the type of risk that you are by looking at your social profile. So that type of behavior, I don't know. I'm sure if there's a gain in it, businesses will use it. In terms of what HR does with this, I think this comes back to HR playing the role of the trusted advisor, the Sherpa of digitalization. You need to be the voice of wisdom. If your company wants to do things like this, you need to have something to say about it. I don't know what the right answer is, but that's the job of HR, I strongly believe. Another angle to this is what you said, your digital footprint, your data. Currently, we think of, take learning for example. We think of an employee as, like I used to work for Honeywell, and then I worked for ING. Everything that happened during the time I was in Honeywell is none of ING's business. They don't have access to what I did there, how I developed myself, all my records, and so today that's how it is. It's just we don't somehow it just doesn't work in a way. I'm imagining that at some point we will get to the point where every person owns his or her data. I own all my data. Everything about me belongs to me. It's kind of like what happens with your health records today. But imagine that extending to everything, not just health. Your employment, all the training courses you took, your school records, your hobbies, your purchases, everything belongs to you. Nobody has the right to access your data without your explicit permission. And we should actually monetize this. We should actually sell this. So I'm actually thinking there is a commercial value for people to surrender data in exchange for something of value to me. So I'm going to give you data on my TV viewing preferences because I'm going to get back awesome suggestions of what to watch, which means time saving for me. I don't have to go surf and look for movies to watch. So that type of, so I think in terms of employment, I think I hope it might come that way. It might come to a point where when you hire someone, you have to negotiate with that person what data you can access. And think about it in a positive way. If that person is going to show you all their leadership development, all their skills development data, and you have such a complete picture of what this person has been trained to do. So, yeah, I think a lot of things are going to be changing, and changing very fast. I'm just speculating here, but I don't know.
What do you think the time frame is? 2 years, 3 years? I know you hope something will happen in the next year. So.
I don't know. I think AI and centaur things are happening now. In the US and in some of the larger companies, you're actually seeing it already. If you talk to people in professions like legal, banking, financial advisors, they are already working with robo-advisors, and I don't know any law firm that's hiring too many paralegals anymore. So it's happening already. In terms of the conversational, there's a prediction that the next operating system is going to be fully conversational, which means the end of websites. You don't need websites anymore. I mean, think about what websites do, right? Websites are there for the organization to communicate to you what they are about. So, if you didn't need to do that, how many times have you walked into a building that you don't know what this building does? And you go, this building looks very interesting. I wonder what it does. So you pull out your phone and you Google the sign on the door so that you can find out what that company does. It will be the end of that if the company now has a conversational bot that you can have a conversation. It's like instead of a website, the company has produced a service agent. And the agent is standing in front of you, and you're having a conversation with this person, the communications person. So you're like, oh, what do you do? Well, we do this, this. Oh, yeah, that's very cool. So who are your competitors? No, 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 no. Are you hiring? No, 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 no. Yeah, it will be the end of websites. You don't need websites because that's how you might still need your phone because that's how you talk to the computer to find out about things, but you don't need to use your meat sticks and point to the computer anymore. I love that quote from Elon Musk.
This might be a bit far-fetched, but if a robot's asking you a question that's inappropriate, how would you handle a grievance?
Social creative capacities. You have to find the one person in the building that's left.
The grievance robot.
You know what? I'm going to send you all. If you're interested, I'm going to send you a link. There's this really cool, I think it's the best AI bot I have ever seen. So this creator, he built this bot, and he's talking to her. He's asking her some pretty tough questions, actually. Watch it, and I was blown away. I cannot believe this was a robot. This was an artificial intelligence talking. He was asking her questions about domestic abuse. What do you think about that? About homelessness, about, I mean, serious stuff. I'm like, I can't come up with those answers. But yeah, it's pretty impressive.